So Gary, we basically identified 4 different key areas of products that we're going to talk about today.
And we have the products on the desk here just to show off the breadth of them. But I don't think we're going to be, we're not going to be getting into actual product specs and deep diving, right? This is more overview type
Exactly.
stuff.
This is not a training webinar. We've done plenty of those. As a matter of fact, we probably have webinars on each of the products we're going to talk about. Really what we want to do today, though, is talk about the opportunities.
Before you change the slide, I just want to stress that we talked about it. This is where I wanted to bring it up. There are shortages. Encoders, shortages, not as bad as PTZ cameras, but still we're seeing shortages. We get a couple hundred in, we have 300 sold. PTZ cameras, folks, I'm not kidding. We probably have over 1,000 PTZ cameras on back order. That's our orders with our vendors trying to fulfill these orders. We're doing everything possible we can to get these guys. We're yelling, we're screaming, we're jumping up and down. Everyone's in the same boat. They're all made overseas, but we're doing our best. And if you have a deal that's a priority deal tied to a specific date that the stuff has to get in there, let your salesperson know. We can't make any promises that we can do it, but we will do everything we can to help you be the hero.
Absolutely. We've been really creative as far as that goes. If there's an eval unit that we can refresh as good as new, to put that into your customer's hands. If you can get your customer to switch from a black to a white camera, from an SDI to an NDI, or vice versa, there are definitely ways to get product into their hands to get them up and running by their deadline.
Yeah, and the 4th bullet we have is sports production. A lot of people think, well, sports is shut down. Why do we even have that bullet? But I think it's important because when sports come back in high schools and colleges, we don't know how many fans, if any, will be in the stands. So it's going to mean that your local high school, whatever, is going to have to stream those sports. And we have tools that'll make you be able to do that. And that's a kind of people are thinking, well, this is a EDU show, not a sports show. But sports are very important to the development of our young athletes in high school. It's something to keep them, if they're playing a sport, they're not getting in trouble is the theory, especially if I have sons and daughters and I know that idle time can be idle trouble. And then at the universities, let's face it, sports is a major revenue center and they need to get that revenue back any way they can.
And audience drives the content. I know if I have to watch another cornhole tournament on ESPN, I'm going to lose my mind. I can't wait for sports to be back on the show.
I hear you.
So let's talk about some of the encoders and the different stuff available. We're starting with the Epiphan AVIO grabbers because we've already seen some huge opportunities going into schools throughout the country with these.
Yeah, we've seen people looking for hundreds of these at a time, where basically what they're trying to do is get standard cameras or PTZ cameras that simply have SDI or HDMI outputs into a laptop or into a video system. So it's a great converter. It's USB-C. They're rugged. They're small. They're bus powered. And they're incredibly reliable. And I really think it's important to say, can you pick it up again and just tap it and hold it up to the camera, Jim?
Yeah, this thing is rock solid.
Yeah, not only is it rock solid, but these things don't heat up. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of converters out there that are cheaper, and they are cheaper. And the cheap is the word I want to use. You leave that on for a couple hours, they heat up, they stop working as well, things don't go as well. These units are built, they have heat dissipation, they don't heat up, you can run them for hours at a time. If you drop it, it's not the end of the world, it's bus powered, and PC or Mac, it lights up immediately. No drivers.
And again, we are talking about the education market. The chance of this being on a desk covered with 20 textbooks where that heat is going to become an issue. The chance of it being flung across the AV department is a huge concern. So when you talk about the reliability of these products, that's a story that resonates.
Yeah, and Epiphan builds these things. Their core market where they started was in commercial hospitals, military grade stuff. That's what they're building. I mean, these converters have been on the International Space Station and out in space. They're built to incredible specs.
Absolutely. And then we're also going to talk about Sling Studio, because Sling Studio is one of the most affordable ways to create a multi-camera production system. And the great thing about the Sling Studio hub is you can even use an iPhone as a video source feeding directly into the hub, which allows even the smaller districts to tell their teachers and students that they can input video from a source that they already know how to use.
Yeah, this is great for a lecture capture situation where you need to have the professor and maybe there's a whiteboard, but maybe there's also something like it's anatomy. So there's a human body, model that they're touching and stuff like that, where you need those multiple cameras to get, to bring the class to life. Because one thing that we've learned is when the distance learning is just you sitting in front of a webcam,
Right.
it just doesn't translate so well
Exactly.
for the students. Live, you say, why do you need multi-cameras? Because some things just come to life a lot better. Plus, what you had talked to me earlier is some boards of ed want to put their stuff up,
Absolutely.
like ours does, and the Cam Link and a Sling Studio is a great way to go. And it's also easily...
And with that camera link, sorry to interrupt you, it's a wireless communication back to the hub. These schools are built out of cinder block.
Yep.
You know, so to be able to have that wireless communication makes it very easy to set up.
And I know also, you know, when you're going on stuff where you're, a lot of times the people operating this are volunteers or students. And Sling Studio is so easy to use. So when it comes to switchers, there are switchers and production systems that are more powerful, more expensive, and more complex. The beauty of Sling Studio is a volunteer can operate it within minutes.
Absolutely. And then the next opportunity we want to talk about is with the Live View Solo. Now, the Live View Solo, it's important to understand that you're really getting 4 data connections: a wired network encoder, a Wi-Fi encoder, or cellular bonding with the 2 USB cellular modems.
Correct.
A school may or may not have interest in the cellular bonding. If they're going to be taking that unit out onto a football field, it sounds great. But even if they're just plugging it into the boardroom and need to stream from a classroom, it is still one of the best encoders on the market if you're plugging it directly into the network.
Yeah, and one of the advantages of cellular bonding isn't just that you could be out on a field, like a football field or in a stadium, or I shouldn't say stadium because I don't know when we're back, but like a baseball field, what have you. But by being able to use the cellular bonding to bring your bandwidth with you, you can avoid some tricky firewall situations that some schools have where the school won't allow the video to directly go out to, let's say, YouTube or Facebook, but you want the video to go out to YouTube or Facebook.
Absolutely.
Someone's not there to reset the firewall for you, or it's too complicated. You can directly go to Facebook or YouTube from the Live View Solo. And a lot of people will use the Solo as their encoder on the output of their production system.
Sure.
So they may have a vMix or a TriCaster or a Wirecast system. They'll go to the Live View Solo to take advantage of cellular bonding to bring it up, because cellular bonding lets you bring your bandwidth with you wherever you go.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we have dealers who have had experience trying to access networks inside these schools. They can be some of the trickiest networks to get up and running and to keep a reliable, stable signal held together.
Absolutely.
And that's where the Live View Solo really fits in great. Next, we want to talk about the FMPro family of products, specifically the FMPro Mini, which is this guy that I have right in front of me here. It's amazing how many applications this really fits into in the education
It's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, it really is.
It records,
Yep.
it encodes, it streams, it can play videos, it can play graphics, and this little screen here, that's where you can operate it from. So the teacher or the professor can easily run his show himself with some well-set presets. And what I really like also is show the back of that. I like that they have the balanced audio on it, because really that's usually, audio is one of the trickiest components of live streaming.
Yep.
And when you don't match your audio correctly, things don't work well. Being able to bring the balanced audio that's already networked throughout your school system, especially in higher education, is great. And Jim, I think you should talk a little bit about Kaltura and Panopto, because that's the driving force behind why we have schools ordering 50 and 100 minis. That's a $3,500 device that people are ordering in those kind of quantities, because they're all in with Panopto and Kaltura.
Absolutely. So Kaltura and Panopto are leading the way in the education space for lecture management services. It's basically allowing the classroom to schedule every activity being done within that building. So now when you take your video feed into a mixer like the Pro Mini and you integrate that management capability, it allows you to set up that distance learning, that online classroom, every time that teacher walks into the room and is ready to go.
From a central IT source. So you could have like your own control room, Kaltura or Panopto, and you'll be able to access every Pearl Mini in the system.
Throughout the building.
That's just not just the building. Anything that's on the net, if it's on the network, you'll get to use it. I also want to mention that they have very tight integration with Crestron as well, because there's a lot of schools in higher education that depend on Crestron for their device control and their audio and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's Epiphan products, so we know the durability and reliability, just like there was on this guy, are going to be there. Next, we're going to talk about the Matrox Monarch family of products, another family of encoders, a little bit unique in some of the features and capabilities that they offer.
Right, but I think it's important to notice, we don't have it on the slide, but they work great with Panopto, Kaltura, and Crestron also.
Yes.
And we have a lot of these. First of all, you can see they're a lot more inexpensive. And this is basically when you want to stream and record. That's what these devices do. Now, they do both. Yes. And what I think is important is there's a lot of devices that stream and record, but they record at the streaming video quality, what we were encoded and compressed to. What the Monarchs allow you to do is stream in one setting and record in the full HD quality. So if you're bringing it into post-production, you can edit it in Premiere or something like that. It's a great way to go. And we have found that we have a lot of people integrating this with different video management systems in 50s, 100s, and 200s. And it's funny because Monarch was really, and Matrix was really the leader in going after this a few years ago, and they had some wins, but it was kind of like schools, especially colleges, were kind of looking at it and say, this is kind of cool, but I don't know. And what became a curious option has become a necessity. Absolutely. And those schools remember the demos, they remember they saw it, and if you've done any kind of discussions over the last 2 or 3 years with a school about Monarchs, jump back and find those people because they are buying.
And I love Matrox's tagline for the products: anything worth streaming is worth recording. And that really sums up what they're doing with the Monarch family. Basically 3 models to choose from. The HD is their HDMI version. The HDX is their SDI version. LCS stands for Lecture Capture System. This is the unit that allows you to bring in the video feed of the professor in the front of the classroom at the same time as his presentation materials.
Yeah, and what's really cool, it lets you set up a setting I really like. We've done it like with your show and our show before. The talent is smaller, so you can have the whole big presentation next to you for the kids to be able to see. So that's really cool. And Matrox is one of those companies that offers direct education pricing at a discount. So I thought it would be important to mention that. These are not your regular dealer prices. Your dealer prices are based on your standard discounts from the educational pricing.
That is correct, absolutely. Next, let's talk about one of the biggest opportunities we've seen, and one of the things that led us to talk about the supply issues before, and that's the PTZ cameras. These PTZ cameras are in demand in houses of worship, sports, and schools all over the country right now. Everybody who wants to not only stream with a high-resolution video, but they don't want to add a camera person, either because there isn't a trained one available or because social distancing rules won't allow them to. Now they have the robotic PTZ control to let that camera get everything that they need to capture.
And you can get PTZ control in a lot of different ways. You can integrate it into your studio if you have mixing like TriCast. You can get a PTZ controller as well. A lot of the PTZ companies have apps you can run on your phone. And also you have presets with a remote that they give you that you can operate too. And what we found in education, it tends to be mainly done with presets, where you'll have a camera that'll have 3 or 4 presets in it, and you'll switch the presets for ease of use and quick changes. But no matter how you're going to use it, it still replaces a body in the room, which, if I'm going to teach a class and I'm limited to 50% of my lecture center, and I have to have a camera person, that takes a student out of the classroom. Absolutely. If I can put this camera back there, I get an extra student in the classroom.
Absolutely. So we're going to kick off this conversation talking about PTZ Optics, which has been very successful here at Broadfield. The great thing about the PTZ Optics cameras is they do have HDMI, SDI, or NDI cameras available. All of them are available in either a gray or a white, the 12X, 20X, or 30X, and we've seen that 30X model probably being the one that is in the most demand.
Yeah, and unfortunately it's the toughest one to get. And to all our dealers with back orders, we're sorry. We're doing everything we can to get them. We're working closely with the folks at PTZ Optics. They're working closely with their, source vendors in China. The bottom line is they just did not expect, these to be, the demand quadrupled on them. We stripped out everything there was, and now they're gearing up and trying to make as many as possible, and hold tight if you can. I just want to talk a little about NDI. And this is an overflow that'll go to more products than that. But if you're into technology in schools, NDI is definitely something you want to invest in as a dealer. I want to remind everyone, NDI is a single cable, an Ethernet cable. That's the video going one direction and all the control and the tally through the other direction. It's something that if you're looking to do and you're looking to be advanced and getting in there and being really known as the techie guys who have a better way of doing things, NDI really is that better way, and you really want to learn more about it if you're in this space.
And I'll go back to what we talked about earlier with the Sling Studio Hub. One of the things that makes it great in these retrofit applications is that it's a wireless communication. NDI gives you one cable to allow to run to the camera to get both video, power, and control all over that single cable. And it's a single Cat 6 wiring.
And it's, for most schools have Cat 6 or 5E
Exactly.
or 5+E. So as long as you've got that in there and you've got the switches, you can really do some great stuff. So we've done other shows on NDI. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I thought we had to talk about it a little bit.
You know what? Because it's a topic that's going to come up again and again, because even some of the new products being introduced by PTZ Optics have that NDI option available for it. Yeah. One of the coolest new products, I think, is the HuddleCam HD ePTZ.
Yes.
This ePTZ is an electronic PTZ where the camera itself is fixed, either in this HuddleCam webcam, I'm going to skip ahead for a second, or in the Zcam 4 factor. And the greatest thing about this ePTZ is you can take a 4K image and pan to any HD area of that to create that same robotic control without controlling anything.
Yeah. And I love this camera because I can put this camera on top of a smart board in my school. I can take the output, USB output of this into a computer. I have the smart board feeding into the computer. Now you can mix between the two presentations, but I can have the camera seeing the kids in the class and the teacher if they want to face it. It's used in AV first, you know, for corporate stuff, but I think it works so well as a non-obtrusive camera you can put in the classroom, and with the HD, you know, regions of interest, you can see the kids in the back of the room, you can see the kids in the front of the room, you have the wide shot, very cool stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the same is true with the Zcam 4 factor, which is PTZ Optics box camera, available in either a dual SDI or an NDI version. The thing that's interesting about the dual SDI version is if you're dealing with a school that has a production system in place, this is a real inexpensive way to take up two of the inputs. So you feed one camera in, you can always have the, the wide angle feed into one of the SDI outputs, and then have your region of interest feed into the other.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it's a great solution when you have a room that's already a production environment.
Absolutely. And then while we're talking about the ePTZ, Panasonic also has their virtual PTZ built into their newest camera, which is the UE4, which is this little guy that I have right up in front of me here.
Yeah, I like this camera a lot. It's got a nice wide region field of view. One of the things we actually did is we bought a little movable rack that we put a TV on and we put a Surface on. We put that on the top of it, and it's our portable zoom camera. And we've done that to set up some zooms and stuff like that. And that's a really nice idea, once again, for a school where maybe your teachers are a little intimidated and they don't want that camera in the room all the time. But maybe you've got a professor who just does a fantastic lecture. Maybe it's an elementary school. The guy just does a great thing on fractions, you know, or a middle school guy who's got a great thing on American history or a science lesson. Bring that in as your school. Get them used to being in front of the camera. Get that master teacher doing their thing in front of the classroom. And because the camera, you could set up to cut remotely from the whole 4K in the regions, it's super unobtrusive. He's not going to get distracted by it. I love that. I just love it as a mobile solution. It worked really well for us.
Absolutely. And the other great thing about it is it does have live RTMP built right into the camera itself. So you really can plug that camera right into the network and stream without anything else.
Wide angle view, power over Ethernet. It's a great, all these EPT solutions are really great solutions, and I'm really excited about them. And if you've got your questions, your customers got some questions for you, they're each unique. We'd be happy, your sales rep will get on the phone, explain to you the differences, which one fits the better thing. We're not trying to say one's better than the other, but we love this technology.
Well, I'm glad you said that now, because now we get into the Panasonic Pro PTZ camera lineup. Panasonic has a lot of models to choose from.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes the confusion can be finding the right model for the right application. Obviously, the zoom is going to affect the distance of the camera, but all these cameras are available in a model with NDI or without. And Broadfield can help find that right camera that fits into the right application.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think we're going to talk about Panasonic. I think one of the reasons when people say, why is Panasonic more expensive? It's because they have a higher level of internal guts. They're using extremely good optics. You know, Panasonic has been in this space for a long time. They're using the optics and quality that they use from their history in broadcast and high-end professional cameras. And the motion of their cameras, if you're actually planning on following someone and actually moving the camera, is second to none, even their most inexpensive units, but certainly on their more expensive units. And you know, when you're dealing with a long zoom, you've got to remember that old pencil trick when you hold the end of the pencil. So if your motion's a little jerky, it looks that much more jerky along from the cameras that are from a distance. So they've got really superior optics and motors in them. And they've got some controllers as well that I'm telling you, so you feel like you're almost flying a drone. They're so accurate and so the touch is just great.
And I know you talked about some of the different options for the controllers already. Obviously, you can do it from a lot of production systems. You can use an iPad or an Android app to do a lot of the control. And we find that to be very generational. In the education market, it's usually the older professors and teachers that want that hard joystick control. They want the tactile feel. It's the kids that walk into the class that want to pick up their phone and do everything on the electronic device. But the other really cool thing that Panasonic offers is their auto-tracking software that allows you to use their AI technology to track the subject.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we don't have in this slide, because we want this slide to stick around longer, is they're offering a free 90-day trial.
Yes.
Of the auto tracking.
And they always offer a 30-day one.
Right, but now it's
so right now they've upped it to 90 days, which is really there's no excuse not to try it out.
And this, when you're in a big lecture center, where now you can put a powerful camera in the back of the room and know it's going to find the professor's face and follow him in. That's one of the things I want to. It gets a little. I talk about this technology, and I always have mixed feelings because this is using very advanced AI facial recognition software to spot the professor or the lecture person. Which
they licensed it from Skynet, right?
Exactly. So I don't want this. I always get worried about that stuff being abused, but in this case, with a teacher and to be set there, it's really great. I know it adds a big cost to the unit. But when you can put if you've got a big lecture center that you want to be transmitting to, let's say you have a 300-person lecture center, you're only allowed to put 100 kids in it by your state law, but you got to educate 300 or 400 remotely. Right. This is a great way to do it. No operator, it'll follow the professor, and it's all, you download the firmware onto the unit, and the unit just instantly lights up with the technology.
It's absolutely amazing. And then we want to talk into probably the new kid on the block, and one that's also garnering a ton of interest, and that's the BirdDog PTZ cameras.
Yeah.
Now, we're focusing today on the P100 and the P200 that you see here, but BirdDog also has two great outdoor cameras available as well.
Yes.
Not necessarily for the education market, so let's focus on these guys right now.
More for sports.
Because this is where there's a great opportunity with these guys being installed.
Yeah, and you picked up, we have the P200 here, but the P100 at $15.99 for an NDI camera is, that's breaking price barriers that we've never seen before. Now, it's not just NDI, but one of the things I want to talk about is, we talk about NDI, there's two flavors of NDI. There's NDI HX and full NDI.
Yes.
They both work great. The advantage of full NDI is the latency gets down to microseconds. And if you're in a situation where you have to have as close to zero latency as possible, that really gives the BirdDog stuff a leg up. But the other thing I like about the BirdDog is the P200 you are holding has Sony optics and mechanics inside it. So it is not a security camera modified. It is a production camera in a PTZ form factor.
Yes, absolutely. And just to preface, all of the cameras that you see up on the table today are going to be packaged and shipped out this afternoon.
Right.
We have back orders already.
Yeah, and we will be gentle and we will clean them. And we actually spoke to the dealers who were getting them, and they gave us permission to do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, you know what? Can you go back a little bit before we talk about the promo?
Yes.
BirdDog also offers something called comms. Yes. Which, when you're doing a multiple production thing, you want to be able to talk to the people. So you get a little headset and you see them on the camera operators. And BirdDog comms is available, and they sell their converters as well.
Yes,
and they're offering comms free for education with certain products. And I think it's really cool if you're going to do it in a production environment. So I just wanted to mention that tool.
No, that's a great point, absolutely. And as far as the promo goes, BirdDog is extending their multi-camera promotion through the end of July.
Yeah.
So if 3 P100 cameras with $500 off the controller, or 3 P200 cameras with a free controller, and that's going to be extended through the end of July. We also just did a show talking about those cameras bundled with some of the Wirecast Gear Live production systems as well to get even more savings.
Right. Now, I want to give the dealers a cheat code if I could, and that is you need to buy it as a bundle, but you don't need to sell it as a bundle. You should be promoting it that way, but if you've got a bid for multiple BirdDog cameras, buy the 3-pack. As long as you know you have someone you can sell the controller to differently, you could be selling the controller to one of your commercial customers while using the savings to be able to win that bid for the PTZ cameras. Just a little trick of the trade there.
So they could even do 2 plus the controller and then use that other camera for another customer. They could break it up as they see fit.
As you see fit for the math. When you may not advertise it that way. We want you to buy them as that way. But what you do with the stuff when you have it, if it helps you get the bid and helps you get BirdDog out there, wink, wink, we're going to look the other way.
And we'll edit that portion of the webinar out before BirdDog sees it, so it's all good. And then new Tech cameras. New Tech, we have the NDI HH PTZ 1 camera here, but I also want to remind our dealers that New Tech introduced a new camera not that long ago, the brand new PTZ UHD, which is their brand new 4K camera.
4K camera shipping today under $5,000. Now, not everything's 4K, but let's say you were working on something pre-COVID that was going to be a 4K world. Well, 4K's here. We showed you some different stuff, but definitely when it comes to a 4K camera for under $5,000, I think that's a sweet spot. And if you've got customers who maybe that in an education or a non-education situation, they're upgrading a studio, this is a great PTZ camera to get in there.
Absolutely. NewTek really did a great job designing these PTZ
And really nice optics, really nice motion. They really stepped it up with that camera.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then finally, let's talk about just the opportunities that are still available with live production systems.
Absolutely.
All this great stuff we talked about has to feed into something. Whether it's a Wirecast gear, an FMPro Mini or Pearl 2, a TriCaster Mini, TriCaster TC1, any of these systems, Broadfield is your source, and we can help you out with any of them.
And Jim mentioned it before, but we have a bundle promo going right now that we did a show on earlier. That's the Telestream Wirecast gear with multiple BirdDog cameras, controllers, the X-Keys controller. We can bundle anything for you if you need it, and if it's an educational bid, all these vendors will work with you on stuff like that, because we want, a lot of schools were planning on upgrading or putting in a studio, and now what they're doing is maybe they have a little CARES money left over, and they're using it, or they're using the CARES money to buy some stuff that's freeing up other capital budget items, equipment budget items, to allow them to build out the studio. So while I don't think CARES is going to create, someone buying 10 production studios, it is allowing money to be available for it, and I think you're really going to see that where they bid it up in the summer, and that's probably going to be something on a college level. You're going to see a lot going in that November, end of November, December timeframe. I think even the public schools too, because once the kids get back in the classrooms, this video is not going away. And I think a lot of public schools also are realizing that their teachers are learning how to do this stuff on the fly.
Absolutely.
Some of them had to do it at home with the camera that was in their laptop. They're looking forward to being in the classroom and perhaps doing it from the classroom, but even more than that, how great would it be to create an environment, once again, where your master teachers can have everything they want set up, with a production system that's maybe on a rack. These are all small and movable. You can bring it into their classroom, do that multi-camera shoot, and maybe you involve your kids in your video production class to be shooting those teachers doing those lectures and those classes. So you're getting a benefit of not just the teacher being more comfortable doing it the way they are, not just the kids getting a superior lesson because it's being done in multi-camera, multimedia with graphics and everything else, but you can have your students themselves learning how to do this stuff, and video is not going away. And I think the video profession is going to be an area that, I'm not saying anyone's going to get rich doing it, but I think it's a great opportunity, of something that if you put on your resume, might help you get into a communication program or a journalism program or a sports management program, whatever you're looking to get into. It used to be that video was just kids who wanted to be the next Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And I think the one thing that this has shown is videos for everyone. And people who know how to do the video and how to set up the video are going to have a skill set that I think will be valuable for years to come.
And the other thing to remind our dealers that sell into the educational market, and I'm sure you know better than anybody, once these investments are starting to be made, there's going to be one person raising their hand saying, what about me? And that's going to be the athletics department.
Yeah.
The athletics departments are usually the budgets
the deepest
that
pockets,
drive
right?
these biggest
Absolutely.
schools. And there's a ton of opportunity there. We have the new Tech 3-Play systems, we have the Simply Live systems, and in a couple of weeks, we're going to be introducing a brand new company we started dealing with, and that's going to be Pixelot with their AI system.
Yeah, Pixelot's a brand new vendor we picked up. We're really excited about it. Basically, in a nutshell, what Pixelot does is it uses multiple cameras to create a large image of your playing field. And it uses artificial intelligence to map out where the players, where the ball is, where the action is, and it actually follows the action with kind of like what an EPTC camera does, a region of interest that's HD while it's going on, and it streams it directly. So there's no production people needed in there. Now, why do I think this is so important, why we wanted to make sure we got this on this show, and we're going to do in-depth on how it works, is a lot of schools have to start up their sports, but they can't have fans.
Right.
And with that, they can't have production crews. Also, a lot of schools now who were producing video for their major sports have to also get those not major sports, because of Title IX and other rules. Everyone wants to be seen, and the fans can't come to the field hockey game either. The fans can't come to the badminton. I'm not trying to put down those sports in any way, but I'm saying not every sport's,
Absolutely.
football.
Yep.
And it works for football, but there's a great technology, super duper cool. The one thing I want to mention is we're really being selective about who gets signed up as a dealer. There will be some training and certifications that are required, but I think it's a huge opportunity. Simply Live with their all-in-one varsity bundle. I think you did a show with that. You brought in Chuck and some of the gang.
We had Chuck and Greg in here, yep.
Once again, this is something that's not no people, but it is simplified. This with the varsity bundle, you can actually have a single operator do the instant replay and do the production on the show. So once again, we're talking about producing sports with as few people as possible involved in the production so we can have more athletes and more fans at the venue.
Absolutely. Gary, thank you so much for joining us today. And our dealers, we know it went long, but it was an important show to do. And if you take every minute of this show and add that to the opportunities available from that $30 billion, it's worth every penny of it.
Absolutely. We felt this was required, and I really think it was 2 shows. We were talking about, the opportunity and the hunting for it.
Absolutely.
And then we talked about the products, but you can't have one without the other. And I just want to stress, we reviewed this with the sales team, with Rich and his guys. Every product you saw talked about in today's show has had multiple multi-seat, multi-unit bids in our system. Now, I haven't all closed yet. A lot of them are quotes.
Yes.
But guys, this is out there. This is happening. And we felt we had to stop the presses, interrupt the flow of shows, and make sure every dealer knew about this. Why? Because you may be the dealer who has that relationship with that community college, with that D3 school, with the school district that you have. Talk to them. Reach out to them. This is great opportunity. And it's a relationship that's just the start.
Absolutely.
If you get in now here with the CARES money, you're going to be their guy for a long time coming because they're in a scramble to get this done. They need friends. They need experts. Be that friend. Be that expert to the educational facilities around you and build your business. Help you grow. Buy more stuff from Broadfield.
Definitely. And we'll make that easy for you with our first webinar every single month, July specials. We'll tell you all about the news, promos, everything you need to know to help sell the products. We're also inviting Epiphan to join us on an upcoming show to talk about some new updates to the Pearl and their SRT capabilities. We're also going to be introducing the Pixelot automated sports production tools that we talked about earlier today. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, you're dry.
Oh, Jim, I like
Cheers.
this. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. And Jim does a great job. This is just a random guest appearance by me. Thank you, guys.
Until next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Broadfield Distributing is a value-added distributor of live production, streaming, video editing, and storage products. We only sell to resellers. We are always looking for new dealers. So call us at 1-800-634-5178 or email sales@broadfield.com. You'll like doing business with Broadfield because we make it easy to do business.